was a dark, blustery evening at the station. Sir Tom had decided to close the railway due to bad weather. The engines are now waiting at the station for the signal to change. Maybe one of us should tell a story, suggested Thomas. The other engines were pleased with Thomas's idea. I've got a perfect one, said James slyly. A long time ago, there was an unnamed tank engine who was always eager to help. But that all changed one night. Blue engine, said the station master. Could you go and pick up a coach that was left behind? Of course, said the little engine, and off he went. As he made his way along the line, the mist was so thick, he can barely see anything. I'll just have to wait until morning, said the little engine, and he settled into the sheds for the night. But then he woke up to hear some strange sounds coming from under the shed. He opened his eyes and saw long, pointy fingers reaching up from him. It was the monster under the shed. Terrified, the little engine raced out of the shed with a horrible engine-eating monster chasing after him. Wow, that was scary, said Henry. Indeed, agreed Emily. Then what happened? Stuttered Percy. That's where the story ends, said James. No one had ever heard from the little engine, ever again. But, quaked Percy, what about the monster? Don't be silly, Percy, laughed Gordon. It's only a story. What if the story was true? Wondered Percy. What if the engine-eating monster is somewhere right now? Don't be a scaredy engine, said Thomas. That story wasn't real. Soon the engines made it to their sheds, and were just about to go to sleep when... Gordon! Thomas! Help! Cried Percy. There's a monster under my shed! Then James appeared behind the sheds with a freight car full of scrap. He used it to give Percy a fright. He laughed at Percy's own experience. Percy was embarrassed. Don't worry, said Edward. Sometimes good imaginations think bad thoughts, agreed Henry. Soon, all the engines were fast asleep. Stop it, James, moaned Thomas. No one's falling in for your pranks again, but James was asleep. Thomas became concerned. That wasn't James, he said. Maybe I do have a monster around my shed. He stayed up all night just to make sure. Thomas felt awfully tired when he arrived at the docks next morning. So Percy heard any other strange noises last night? Thomas yawned. Not after James' silly prank, replied Percy. Thomas felt silly himself for staying up all night. By midday, Thomas was very tired and running far behind schedule. Gee, Thomas, you look like you can use some special coal, said Henry. Oh, I'm just a little tired, said Thomas sleepily. Then James puffed past with a passenger train. What's wrong, Thomas? He laughed. The monster's keeping you up all night? By evening, Thomas barely had enough puff to puff back to the sheds. As he passed the other engines, they were telling stories again, but Thomas headed straight for the sheds. That night, Thomas still couldn't sleep. He was afraid that the monster he thought was real was looking around his shed. What's that? Who's there? Maybe the thumping will surely wake the other engines, Thomas thought to himself. But the sleeping engines didn't seem to hear him. It's just outside the door. That looks like its head. Help, Gordon. But only the soul-thought monster heard Thomas, so he backed himself inside the shed. Thomas was scared. Even with the closed doors behind him, he still felt like he was in danger. Suddenly, the doors began to bang on their hinges. It's nothing, I hope. It's probably windy outside, said Thomas. I think. Or maybe the monster is trying to get inside. The banging stopped. Thomas gasped, as there, right in front of them, was the horrible engine-eating monster. Its strange glowing eyes glared. Thomas had tried to keep it in, but he couldn't anymore. Everyone woke up with a start. Everyone, help! Cried Thomas. There's a monster in my shed! Get that monster away from me! Gordon looked down and laughed. Thomas, he laughed. You should see something.
There's no laughing matter, Gordon,
said Thomas. From my view it is, said Gordon. Just come out. So Thomas did. What did I tell you, said Gordon. Thomas looked down as there, sitting right in front of him, was a tiny little hedgehog. A hedgehog, said Thomas. After all this time I was afraid of a tiny little hedgehog? All the other engines laughed. And soon Thomas was laughing with them. Percy has a good imagination, said Henry. But I think yours is a lot more better, said Emily. You're right, said Thomas. It's the only one thing in the world that can change this tiny little hedgehog into a big, scary monster. The hedgehog, who was about to go to sleep on Thomas's footplate, agreed.
You want to see us, boss? Yes, Diesel. I've hatched a plot, and I need you, Airy, and Bert to carry it out. What is it, boss? You know it's Halloween, right?
Does that mean we get to go trick-or-treating?
No, not that, Bert. I mean, we get to pull Halloween pranks on Steamies to scare them.
How? You and Harry try many schemes to scare Thomas and Ellie in 2004, and Diesel try many schemes to scare Thomas in 2005.
Shut it, Bert. That was a couple of years ago. You were saying, boss? I need you guys to do better than the couple of years ago. If you guys do that, then I'll be proud of you. And Fat Hat won't be able to get us into trouble. Any of you on my mark?
Got it, boss.
Excellent.